And uniqueness is not good enough. The next step is to look at your sustainable competitive advantage. It's a really fancy way of saying, what's going to happen once your competitors see your success? What's going to happen once you have your product in the market and once the press is talking about all the customers that are buying your product, right? Well, your competitors that exist, they're going to make some changes. They're going to look at what you're doing and start copying you. You are going to be the red can of soda. And so what can you do to stop this? Before I answer that question, I just want to point out that it may not matter. This is a concept that is very popular and very important in the software and tech industries for the reason that in software, the cost of getting one more customer is generally zero. The cost of doing one more search at Google is basically zero, one more Facebook account, one more anything software related is at or near zero. And therefore, in those markets, there tends to be the case where one company rises to the top and it's winner take all. So of all the companies that started out making operating systems for personal computers, Microsoft rose to the top. For all the companies that made music players, Apple rose to the top. For all the companies that did social networking for your friends, Facebook rose to the top. And in all these cases, they captured a huge percentage of the market to the detriment of everyone else in that market. So in many other markets, that's not true. So it's not true that there's only one company that makes fizzy soda water. It's not true there's only one brand of restaurant. It's not true there's only one supermarket brand or dry cleaners or most every other market. Not one clothes manufacturer and so forth and so on. So it may not be critically important to your company to have a sustainable competitive advantage, but nonetheless, you should still understand how it works because it doesn't hurt. All right, so here's how it goes. What can you do to put up a wall between you and your future competitors? What can you do to make it harder for them to copy you? That's really what it comes down to. And there's a few things you can do and a few things you can aspire to do. And let me run through them one at a time. First is patents. Patents are a monopoly on an invention for 20 years, generally 20 years. So if you have an invention, you can file this idea, this invention, with the patent office in your country. Here it's the U.S. Patent and Trademark Organization. You can file this. It'll take a while to get. It'll cost you some money, $10,000, $12,000 in the U.S. to get a patent. And that will give you the monopoly. That will give you the sole rights to use that invention in that one country. You can file patents in lots of countries around the world. You don't have to live there. And that's a really strong way to protect your innovative idea. But do note that at the same time, all those patents are public knowledge. You are making a trade. You are telling the world how your invention works in exchange for the sole right to control commercializing that idea. Right? What happens in real life with patents is that they don't work as well as they could. What happens in real life is that your small company patents something. It may take 2 years before you get a patent, and in those 2 years, you have no protection. But in those 2 years, you have told the whole world how your idea works, and they can either copy it directly or they can find a way to use ideas within there that don't exactly match what you patented, and so they can have a similar idea without doing the research that you spent the time doing. What also happens with patents is that if you do find someone that copied you, you have approximately a $2 million per year problem to go and stop the person from using it, stop the person or company from using your idea. It's very expensive to go into court and protect your patent. Nonetheless, it is top of this list because it is, amongst everything else, the strongest sustainable competitive advantage. Once you are a large company, you will have the wherewithal to protect your patents. As a small company, you will create value by having patents. They're good to have. Moving on, second best is contracts. So imagine you have a service and it's an expensive service, let's say $100,000 per year, and you have contracts with 5 customers to go deliver this service. Well, Those have probably taken you a while to close, right? That is $500,000 worth of customer relationships there, potential revenue. And any competitor coming along not only has to do better than you, they would then have to convince your customer to stop paying that or break the contract or not renew for next year or whatnot. So contracts are quite good at protecting your existing business. And it can work with your customers, it can work with your vendors. When Apple came out and brought out the iPhone, they went to Corning and got Gorilla Glass, this amazing hard to break glass to use on their screens. And they didn't have an exclusive relationship for that, but they bought up every bit of Gorilla Glass there was. So they had a contract, a long-term purchase contract with a vendor that then stopped their competition from having Gorilla Glass. So all the other smartphones, their screens broke more easily because they couldn't get this glass, but eventually Corning made enough so everybody can have some. So it was a good protection, but not forever. And it can work with partnerships and anywhere else where you can create a contract between your company and some other organization. Next on the list is scale. And scale is kind of what it sounds like. When you are big enough and strong enough and you are the name in the market, then a competitor coming in has to show why they are better than you. What it means is that once you are at scale, every potential customer has heard of your company. And therefore, when an upstart competitor comes along, whether they're brand new or another company, those potential customers, they will always think of you and always think of your products in their buying decisions. And so that's really what it means to be the red can of soda, right? So if you are an upstart in that market of fizzy sugared water, you have to deal with the fact that every store knows about Coca-Cola and nearly every store has a distribution agreement for their products. And you have to deal with the fact that every customer, when they're thirsty, knows about the Coca-Cola products and has never heard of yours, right? So this is one where you can aspire to have scale, but you have no scale now. Once you get there, whether it's a small little market, you might pick a very small market where you can reach that in a few years, or a huge market that may take decades. Either way, if you get to scale, that is a great competitive advantage to have. You just can't get there right now. Similarly is the network effect. That's really a way to get to scale. The network effect says that the more people buy your service or your product, the more valuable it becomes. Let's take a really quick example on what this means. Imagine you are selling the first telephones 150 years ago, 130 years ago, right? So no phones have been sold yet, and you're trying to make your first sale selling your first phone. That phone, just to be clear, can't call anyone because there are no other phones. So that first phone really has no value. Second phone, what you would do in that first sale was find someone who needed two phones, because now with two phones, each phone has some value. But then fast forward when there are 100 phones sold, if you know someone with a phone, it has value. At 1,000 phones, you probably know someone who has a phone, and at 1,000,000 phones, you definitely know someone who already has a phone. So as there are more and more phones in the network of phones, each phone has some more value. Each phone sale is adding value to that network. We saw this most recently with Facebook. So Facebook started by going after Harvard and Yale, right? It was Harvard first and then Yale. And they did that so that when someone signed up, they probably knew someone who was already on Facebook. Because Facebook, when you don't know anyone, is pretty useless. You can post what you did recently, but no one will read it, right? So you have to have friends in order to have Facebook be useful. And the more friends you have and the more friends they have makes the network more valuable, right? That's the network effect. The network effect helps you get to scale really quickly, but it into itself creates value in the network you build. So that's a great sustainable competitive advantage. Lastly on this list is experience. So you may have 10 years experience doing working in the field that you want to start your startup in. That is awesome. That is great. Your competitors may not have that, right? But then again, your competitors may match that pretty easily. It's not a very strong competitive advantage. What really builds up is that if you take that lean startup philosophy and iterate and iterate and iterate, you will not only have experience in selling to that market, you will truly know that market better than anyone else. And that knowledge of what the customers really want, how to talk to them, what language to use to get them to buy, that is the experience that truly adds value into your company, and that creates a sustainable competitive advantage that the next competitor doesn't start with, that sets up a barrier between you and them. There are many other ways to create a sustainable competitive advantage, but most of them are weaker than even the weakest on this list. And really, very few protect you against a great innovative idea that some other company brings to market.